about 11 days to go for the first votes to be cast in election 2019, and it's been an eventful week. So who stands where at this juncture? What are the issues dominating the election discourse? In this weekly roundup of sorts, we're speaking today with R Jagannathan, editorial director of Swaraj. Senior journalist and commentator Madhavan Narayanan is joining us as well. But first, let's take a quick look at all the election buzz this week.
The week began with Congress outlining its minimum income scheme on NYAY. Under the scheme, the party promises to give 72,000 rupees per year to the poorest 20% of the country. Rahul Gandhi also promised a plan for startups if elected to power. The party promises to put an end to angel tax and will exempt startups from permissions for the first 3 years of business.
Minimum income line 12,000 रुपए की है. जो मिनिमम इनकम लाइन और मिनिमम उनकी जो इनकम है उसका जो फर्क होगा वो सरकार देगी.
PM Modi got everybody nervous over his important message on Wednesday morning. This message was about India becoming a space superpower.
कुछ ही समय पूर्व हमारे वैज्ञानिकों ने अंतरिक्ष में, स्पेस में 300 किलोमीटर दूर LEO लो अर्थ ऑर्बिट में एक लाइव सैटेलाइट को मार गिराया है.
Many politicians were unhappy about the suspense created around the announcement and also took the matter to the Election Commission.
Waiting. Thunderstorm আসছে. Empty vessel sound much.
The Prime Minister responded to Rahul's comments, saying he was confused between SET and ASAT.
ये SET शब्द थिएटर में बड़ा कॉमन होता है, बार-बार सुनाई देता है. कुछ बुद्धिमान लोग ऐसे हैं, जब कल मैं ASAT की बात करता था तो कंफ्यूज हो गए, समझे कि मैं थिएटर के सेट की बात कर रहा हूं. हम ऐसे बुद्धिमान लोगों पर रोए हैं, हंसे.
Modi also began his 2019 poll campaign by giving a new acronym to the Gathbandhan in Uttar Pradesh, a comment that drew flack from opposition parties.
सपा का स, RLD का र और बसपा का ब, मतलब शराब. अच्छी सेहत के लिए शराब से बचना चाहिए कि नहीं बचना चाहिए? तो सपा, RLD, बसपा, ये शराब आपको बर्बाद कर देगी.
Urmila Matondkar added some glamour to the Congress's candidate list. The actor will be fighting for the party from Mumbai North. Speaking of Bollywood, Shatrughan Sinha has decided to join the Congress as well and will be contesting polls from Bihar. Meanwhile, Priyanka Gandhi, on her first solo campaign rally in Ayodhya, attacked PM Modi's haq diplomacy.
मैंने पूछा प्रधानमंत्री जी गांव गए हैं, वाराणसी में गांव घूमते हैं, तो जवाब आया कि नहीं जाते. देश भर घूम आए, अमेरिका गए, जापान गए, चीन गए, अफ्रीका गए, नाम लीजिए वहां गए और वहां गले लगते हुए दिखे पूरी दुनिया में, लेकिन अपने लोगों से गले लगते हुए कभी नहीं दिखे.
That's all the election buzz this week. Log on to Bloomberg Quint for more election-related news.
Quick reminder, you can listen to all the top election stories on this daily podcast called Election Soundtrack. So that's it for the plugs. Let's get on with the show. Madhavan Narayanan and R Jagannathan joining us today. Let's start with what this election is about. There's a sense, and tell me if I'm mistaken, that with just less than 2 weeks to go, there's no real buzz like it was in 2014. Am I right or wrong? Madhavan, let me start with you.
I think the quote of the week for me came from RLD's leader Jayanta Chaudhary, who said in an interview, "This is not a wave election." And I tend to agree with him that it looked like a wave at some point, with Modi being strong. But I think now the narratives are intersecting. Both are strong narratives, the Congress and the BJP. But I think it's not a wave election. And I've been also looking at some of the details beyond all these headline grabbing speeches and promises, which is to look at the way alliances are being forged across various states. I think Ruchir Sharma recently said that this is an election that you have to call state by state. And I read newspapers in Tamil and catch some of the Hindi news. And I do believe that this is going to be a more what I call a Duckworth-Lewis kind of an election, to use a cricket analogy. There will be alliances, there will be narrower margins, there will be smaller parties. All this does matter. And right now, that's probably why what we have noticed this week is a raising of the pitch on both sides, Rahul Gandhi as well as Modi. And the BJP is too shrewd a party to not to take any feedback and intelligence into consideration, which means if the pitch has gone up, that means their intelligence is showing that they need to raise the pitch. And that for me is very, very significant. This is not a simple Modi making the old kind of speeches. I see a change in the tone and the tenor, which shows that they also know that there are maybe dozens of constituencies where it'll go down to the wire, to borrow Ravi Shastri's memorable expression.
Jaggi, how do you look at it? You know, we've had 1 day of official campaigning, or say 48 hours really of official campaigning from Prime Minister Modi. And from what I heard from the 3, 4, 5 odd election speeches that I listened to, it seemed to me that the focus was on national security, a lot of invoking of Pulwama and then, you know, Balakot strikes, etc. The prime target is the Congress once again. And that seems to be the biggest focus, isn't it? Keep the focus on national security.
Yeah, but I don't think you can do that beyond a point. I think what the BJP will hope for, given its slightly average performance on hot button issues like jobs and growth and related issues, I think they would like the focus to be a little away from the economy, except in terms of what they have been able to delivered at the ground level, like Ujjwala or electrification or, the farmers, PM Kisan Samman and all that stuff. So my guess is at the macro front, they have something to worry about, which is why they would like the election to be largely determined by slightly non-economic issues, even while the smaller economic issues work, which is why I think when Rahul Gandhi made that announcement that they're going to give 6,000 rupees on an average for the bottom 20% every month, that's a big thing. So he's trying to shift the narrative towards what do you get from the government, and the government is saying what kind of government we are trying to deliver and what we will deliver in future. So my guess is that this is going to be, as Madhavan said, it's going to be very, very difficult to predict. The mood will form towards the end. My guess is the partisan sides, that is those who will never vote for BJP and those who will always vote for BJP, will not be swayed by anything that any party says. It is that 10% who might have voted this way last time who are shifting, who will make a difference, and that all this campaigning is about that 10% who will get swayed one way or the other. Some people will think that, okay, maybe the government, I didn't vote for Modi last time, but this time maybe he's delivered in some areas. Then there are others who say, I voted for Modi last time, but this time I can't see huge visible results. So the interplay between these two emotions is what's going to determine the outcome. The remaining 80-90% have already decided they are not going to change their minds.
Well, that's interesting analysis. Now, a person who's in the job of making these predictions, Manu Sharma, is joining us on the show today for the first time. Manu, welcome. He's editor, advanced analytics at C Voter. Now, your latest tracker, if I'm not mistaken, puts the NDA at 264 and also predicts a PostPoll Alliance to get them past the magic number. What is your sense of the Pulwama gains and the Balakot gains, which we had seen peak in the second week of March? Are they now diminishing? Because the BJP clearly wants to keep the focus on the same issue.
Well, so I mean, for that we'll have to just borrow a term from economics. So the strength of the BJP has been strong product differentiation, ever since 2014. So BJP under Prime Minister Modi was able to successfully project itself as, the real party with a difference, which could make a difference to the lives of ordinary folk across a 360-degree gamut of issues. So what has happened post that is that over the 5 years, and this is the sense that we are getting from data, that when it comes to the bread and butter and socio-economic issues, the BJP is not able to put a huge amount of sunlight between itself and the Congress. It is leading, but that lead is slender. However, when we shift the narrative to security issues, I mean, the lead is simply as stark as day and night. So obviously BJP will try to shift the narrative and the election towards its advantageous high ground of security issues, while the Congress will try to drag BJP towards its advantageous ground of bread and butter issues. But what happened post Pulwama was that on the day Pulwama happened, and we are running an almost daily tracker now to gauge the sentiment, there was a huge spurt of basically faith in the leadership of Prime Minister Modi. And for maybe the first time we saw that security and terror issues as the issue of top recall. That is when we ask people that which is the issue that you think is the number one cause of public concern today and something that you would like to vote on. For the first time, we saw security and terror issues dominate an issue like unemployment, which for about 1.5 years had been perhaps the topmost issue in our tracker. So what we are witnessing post-Pulwama is a sudden rise in the significance of security and terror issues. The beneficiary of that is no doubt Prime Minister Modi. However, the caveat is that since the rise in the importance was so abrupt, maybe we might see a sudden decline also. So if the BJP is unable to sustain this momentum, if it is unable to kind of keep the water boiling, then there's a real risk that the election will shift back to the natural ground of bread and butter issues. And over there, I think it's really, I would say, an equal battle. But definitely not so much so in terms of seats, because there are other factors like organizational capability, the natural reach of the parties. Like Congress is a far more diminished party today. But then again, when we combine the entire opposition might, then we look at a very different matrix. But as things stand today, given the heat and momentum generated by post-Pulwama Balakot strikes and the whole effort of the BJP to shift the narrative towards security issues, it is certainly advantage NDA. But the question is whether this advantage would be sustainable over the next 2 months. I think that will be the key.
So a battle of narratives in a sense. And, Jaggi spoke very briefly about the Congress scheme. Let me come to Madhavan Narayanan on this. If you have to look at some of the big issues that dominated the discourse this week, the biggest, of course, was NYAY. The minimum income support promise, 12,000 a month, 72,000 a year, actually, 6,000 a month for families at the bottom 20% of the pyramid. A lot of discussion on how will it be done, can it be done, etc., etc. Doesn't really matter in the context of an election promise, does it?
Yeah, in fact, it doesn't matter for two reasons. First is there is too much at stake for Congress. This is a sort of a make or break movement, both for the party to hold itself in the polity and for the Nehru-Gandhi family to have its sway. They have to pull a rabbit out of the hat, and they are trying very hard to do that. And to that extent, they will, in a manner of speaking, go for broke. Having said that, let me also add two more things there. One is that the NYAY scheme, in spite of all the hard criticism from BJP, is not entirely undoable. And I do not think it really involves a huge fiscal risk as it is being made out, for two reasons. One is that Rahul Gandhi was smart enough to announce that it will be a pilot scheme and done in phases. So they have already bought some insurance on that scheme. The second thing is that between people like Jairam Ramesh and P. Chidambaram and Praveen Chakravarti, they have a good brains trust happening there, who do understand the fiscal issues as much as the need for populism. So they're obviously not going to place all the cards on the table before the elections. They would leave for elbow room. I do believe they will have some juggling room, either in terms of tweaking up some tax here or there, or tweaking down some subsidy or here or there. There is, to borrow a phraseology from listed companies in the stock markets, they have the levers to move the quarterly results kind of situation. And I think in that sense...
Sorry to interrupt you there, because there has been... Sorry to interrupt you there, Madhavan. And the only reason I'm doing this is because there's been so much analysis. They have to first win. What is the likelihood of them winning? Then they have to implement NYAY. When they do, we'll see how they do it. It's the promise that matters.
Absolutely, and I see a direct correlation, I would say an inverse correlation of sorts between Rahul Gandhi upping the ante with the income promise, which far outweighs the PM Kisan scheme, and on the other hand, Modi raising the pitch on national security. I think the latter is a direct response to the former and a full recognition of the fact that the development narrative is shifting towards Congress, and therefore, as Jaggi very accurately calibrated the whole thing, the security promise becomes part of the portfolio for BJP, so that the fence sitters and the marginal swings can be more towards the BJP. So in that sense, the Congress definitely has set the cat among the pigeons, so to speak.
Jaggi, let's just analyze for a second the response to NYAY from the BJP. Now, a couple of weeks ago, and I don't know how many of you remember, there was a BJP leader who hinted that there may be a minimum income support kind of scheme in the BJP manifesto as well. This was barely 8-10 days ago. And of course, the details of NYAY have come out after that. But the official response has been to say that they're lying to you. It's a bluff and they can't really implement it and it will wreak havoc with the economy, etc. What does that response tell you?
Actually, my guess is that this initial response is just a political, attack. But my guess is that since there is some time to go before the BJP releases its manifesto, I would suspect that the BJP will have its own response to the NYAY scheme in its own way, because there is nothing which, just like the Congress knows that the NYAY scheme is not going to be rolled out in July this year. It will take its own time, and if to give 20%. Let's not forget that the Kisan Samman impacts 12 crore people. This one impacts only 5 crore. So if you say that every year I'm going to increase the Kisan Samman by 6,000, so by the terminal year of the next government, you're talking about 36,000 rupees. So I think, and for 12 crore people, so the impact can be changed quite a bit. So my guess is we have to wait for the BJP manifesto. They are not going to let this go and rely only on Balakot to deliver the votes. They will have to deal with the economic content of what is being promised by the opposition. So I think it is the right thing to do is wait for the BJP to come with its own version of NYAY, so that we know what is the final. I don't think the BJP is foolish enough to think that the entire election can be won through the Balakot surge alone. As we go closer to the election, that surge will come down. It is the economic issues that will finally dominate, and the regional issues too. Balakot will, I think, impact more the northern and Hindi and things that are regions that are closer to the border, where these are big issues. Say, but in the south and the east, the issues will be quite different, where the I think the BJP has to change the narrative there. Their economics will matter much more. And that's where I think we are going to see some kind of micromanaging of issues across regions.
Yeah, so I was listening to the Prime Minister. He spoke both in Telangana and Andhra today, and he did bring up Balakot. And of course, there were attacks on the regional leaders there, on Chandrababu Naidu and on TRS. Interestingly, Manu, C voter also talks about PostPoll Alliances adding to the NDA kitty and the help they may need from PostPoll Alliances. And of course, in your analysis, you talk about TRS also coming in, possibly after a win of 10 to 15 odd seats. Will this happen even with the viciousness of the BJP attack at this point?
Well, I mean, politics is the art of impossible. I mean, it's the cliche, and I mean, it holds true in real life also. So, I mean, when we look at the probable alliances, and I mean, we are just suggesting that what may happen, I mean, it's not really cast in stone, but Given the proclivities and the kind of information in the corridors, it looks like that TRS and Jagan would be much more amenable towards joining the NDA vis-a-vis the UPA, and the reverse holds true for, let us say, the SP, BSP, in a post-poll situation. So what we are looking at is that perhaps, there is the core camp, which is the NDA and the UP, and then there is the extended or the greater camps, which we may define, loosely. Now, whether they join or not will be dependent upon the seats garnered by the respective cores. So if it looks like that BJP or NDA is really close to the majority, and they could just need a little bit of nudge, and they'll be home and provide a stable government, then obviously these parties may be much more likely to join them. However, if they might be falling short, and they would still need to kind of wrest a few more seats from here and then obviously there would be questions and calculations which these parties may indulge into to maximize their own self-interest. So as of now, it looks like if the BJP falls short, or the NDA falls short by let us say a small tally in 20s and 30s, then we are largely looking at that tally being made up by these political actors. But if it's anything further south, then it may lead to a realignment of the entire political map.
Okay, just a couple of more things I think we should discuss. Of course, NYAY was one big one. We've seen the kickoff of the key campaigners from the star campaigners, Modi, Amit Shah. Just a quick aside to what Jaggi was saying earlier. I heard Amit Shah in a rally speak about feeding biryani to terrorists. And I remember this from 2014. So you're quite right when you say that they need to come up with more stuff so it doesn't sound like a campaign from 5 years ago. What do we think about the impact of Priyanka Gandhi Vadra so far? Let's focus a bit on that, and let me start with Madhavan again, because she was touted as the next big thing for the Congress, the game changer. She's done 2 or 3 sets of visits to Uttar Pradesh. What is the kind of vibe you're picking up on how she's being received and what impact she could have in Uttar Pradesh?
I think I have written about this for Quint as well. I think the important point to remember is that she is essentially in charge of East UP, which is a virgin blue ocean territory, because it doesn't have an overwhelming influence of the Yadavs or the Dalits, or to a good extent the Hindutva. So there is a lot of small M&A possibilities there, as I say, of forging alliances with local leaders and smaller parties, and Priyanka is probably going to be focusing on that. And she's trying the charisma and the fact that the Prime Minister's constituency is there. And I found it very interesting that there is talk and there are some rumors being spread about, I don't know how valid they are, about Priyanka Gandhi contesting from Varanasi herself. And therefore, they want to keep the buzz alive. And given her visual appeal and the evocative way she was riding the boats in the Ganges, and very interestingly, what is called soft Hindutva, through Priyanka going to temples, is also probably going to be used. The way I see it is that the BJP quotes soft populism, and Congress is quoting soft Hinduism, and they are trying to balance each other's deficit in that way to swing the voters. And Priyanka might play a significant role, because please understand that in the 2009 elections, the Congress did reasonably well in Eastern UP. And if, along with the fact that Priyanka and Rahul as a combo plan work well at the national narrative level, there is also specific gains possible on the anti-incumbency factor in Eastern UP. But it requires a lot of hard work. And it's like converting a penalty corner in hockey. You just can't hit and hope it to convert. You need a bit of extra push. And Priyanka seems to be getting there, but they know that they don't have too many cards to play, so they are doing it very carefully. It's an amazing amount of planning that I see in the Congress camp.
Manu, let me come to you. What are you picking up about Priyanka Gandhi Vadra? Interesting point there from Madhavan Narayanan, that Eastern UP specifically is sort of ripe for the picking in that sense for the Congress, if they can make any headway there.
Well, I mean, there are 2 ways to look at it. The one is that, what could be the dividends, potential dividends for the Congress party, related to fielding Priyanka Gandhi in a very active political role. And the other thing could be that what would be the ramifications of her launch on other parties. So we should not forget that UP is witnessing a very bitter bipolar contest in which I think according to our last round and a few of the previous ones, the vote share margin between the SP-BSP combined and the BJP is down to the wire of about between 2 to 4% in some instances. So with the launch of Priyanka Gandhi, what we are looking at is that probably some vote share migration will happen from the alliance side and also from the BJP side. Now the question is who will be hurt more and what would be the total impact of her launch in politics. So let us say hypothetically she's able to dent about 3% vote share of the BJP and a negligible amount from SP-BSP. That might make the alliance and the BJP even Stevens in terms of vote share across the state, specifically so in eastern UP. So her launch has ramifications beyond the immediate gains to the Congress party itself. She can be a vote cutter for either of the two principal players in Uttar Pradesh. And I mean, in some ways, she may actually end up being the tiebreaker between the two. So it's still in the realm of, I would say, hypothetical, projections. But the danger of either of the two principal political players being hurt is very real from her launch.
I'm glad you say that because everything is in the realm of hypothetical projections at this point. We're just getting a sense of everything we've seen this week. Jaggi, you want to weigh in on the PGV factor and how it could pan out?
I think she is more a media obsession than a real political player. I mean, you can say that if she is going to make a difference, it's the same kind of difference that Urmila Matondkar or somebody will do. Basically, people will congregate to look at her and hear her because she's got charisma. Oh, she looks like Indira Gandhi. That's kind of thing. I think the Indian voter has moved beyond charisma. They will come to look at people, but they may not necessarily vote for her. So I think what I think the C voter person said was probably right. That is, there will be a small marginal difference which the Congress will benefit, but that would have happened regardless of whether she had entered the fray or not. As long as the Congress enters the fray, it will obviously eat into some share of the vote. The question is whether it will eat what it will probably not. My guess is that the reason for her entry is to see if she can take away more votes from the BJP, since the Congress's basic political aim is to defeat Modi rather than to win itself. So that's the idea there. And if she succeeds in doing that, or it's not about her actually, it's even if Rahul had been there, the result would have been the same, assuming you're going to fight the whole lot of a big battle in eastern UP. But my guess is it depends on how much time you're going to win, because the Rahul has to make sure that he gets the seats, and those seats are not going to come from eastern UP. They're going to come from other areas like, say, Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh, Chhattisgarh, and hopefully some in Maharashtra and Karnataka. Elsewhere, they're going to draw a blank. So trying to spend too much time in Uttar Pradesh does not make sense for the Congress. That's why I think it's been given to Priyanka. That's all.
Okay. Madhavan wants to come in with a point on that. Yes.
Yeah, I think there's a very interesting point that the Congress is in a bit of a dilemma, which is that I agree with Jaggi to the extent that he says that Congress cannot, it needs the alliances badly. But Digvijay Singh said recently that the regional parties know very well that they want to dislodge the Congress too. So the Congress does not want to go that extra mile in defeating Modi, because they are looking for that golden mean where they will defeat Modi but will not lose their own identity in search of the allies, or losing the mystique that they've had for 100 years, which is like an addiction that you cannot kick. So I think this is where Congress is facing a dilemma, and how they address this state by state and week by week is something we'll have to watch. I think they want to have the cake and eat it too, and it's not easy.
Well, it's not going to be an easy fight either way, despite predictions of 300 seats from Prime Minister Modi today in a television interview. There's a long way before that last vote is counted. Thank you so much to all of you for joining us on this debate today.